How you doing, guys? This is Chad, Weather Eyes, Maine. You can visit us at www.airseal.me. Give us a call at 1-800-400-7061. We perform energy audits, air sealing. We install insulation, windows, doors, siding, and roofing. Our business is saving you money. So today we're going to have a quick talk on indoor air quality and how important it is to have efficient, comfortable, healthy, and durable homes. I know a lot of old timers just say, well, your home needs to breathe, and that's the solution to their indoor air quality issue. That's not going to work for us anymore. We want to have efficient homes, yet keep them comfortable, and of course we all want to be healthy, and we want our homes to last a while. So with that, we're going to get started. Number one is this is a broad discussion. This discussion is intended to raise awareness about the importance of indoor air quality. All information provided is intended to be accurate, and I do have fairly extensive training on the subject of indoor air quality, but no guarantees are being made, and the materials contained in this presentation can be considered my opinion on best practices. This discussion does not by any means include all indoor air quality topics. It doesn't include all pollutants. Definitely we don't include all solutions. It's just a start. So why is indoor air quality so important? Some studies say people spend up to 90% of their lives indoors. So of course environmental pollution and outdoor air quality is important, but you spend most of your life indoors. The air you breathe in your home is very important. Poor indoor air quality can cause respiratory diseases, heart disease, and cancer. The people that are most affected by poor indoor air quality are often the people who spend the most time indoors. Elderly people, people that have trouble getting around, people with disabilities tend to spend more time indoors, and a lot of times they may have compromised immune systems, so it's even more important in those cases. Some effects of poor indoor air quality can be felt immediately. Irritation of the eyes, nose, and throat, headaches, dizziness, fatigue, just feeling like you have the flu all the time. That could be from poor indoor air quality. Those things are treatable. You clean the air and you create good indoor air quality in your home, and a lot of that stuff may go away. But other things caused by poor indoor air quality can cause long-term chronic health issues. For instance, one of the things we're going to talk about is asbestos. Asbestos contributes to poor indoor air quality. And people have been known to get mesothelioma from asbestos. So, of course, if that happens, that's a long-term chronic issue. So there's both short-term treatable symptoms because of indoor air quality, and then you can get, serious health effects. What are indoor air pollutants? What is it that's making your air quality poor? Well, of course, there's radon, and radon causes lung cancer. It comes from earth and rock underneath the home. There's mold, mildew, bacteria, and viruses. They cause headaches and sinus irritation as well as sickness. They come from house dust and poorly maintained appliances with filters, and then just having moisture in the home. Carbon monoxide causes death at high levels, but more commonly it causes headaches and drowsiness and dizziness. It comes from combustion appliances and engines, anything that has fire. Then there's formaldehyde, which causes cancer, headaches, and sinus irritation. It comes from everything, everything new, everything old, furniture. Typically new things are going to off-gas formaldehyde. Furniture, carpets are a big one, pressed wood products, paper products, everything. That new smell that you probably like, chances are that's formaldehyde. Another big one's lead. Lead causes damage to vital organs in the nervous system. It comes from household dust from lead paint. VOCs, they cause headache, sinus irritation, can cause cancer and damage to vital organs, come from aerosol sprays, tobacco smoke, mothballs, dry clean clothing, cleaning products. And there's asbestos. Asbestos causes lung cancer, 600 to 1,000 deaths yearly in the U.S. alone. And asbestos comes from building materials. And then respirable suspended particulates. It's particulate matter smaller than 10 microns. Then there's particulate matter smaller than 2.5 microns. That's actually called fine suspended particulates, would be particulate matter 2.5 or PM 2.5. But these are just real small things floating in the air that can attack your lungs and get stuck there. But they cause lung cancer and sinus irritation. They come from wood-burning appliances, unvented combustion appliances, vacuum cleaning, dust in general, pollen, lint, cooking spray, basically anything that goes airborne that is a real fine particulate matter. Does your home have poor indoor air quality? So many of us experience symptoms of poor indoor air quality without even realizing the air we breathe at home could be causing us to feel under the weather. Is feeling sick or having allergies common in your home? If so, you could possibly have poor indoor air quality. Do you have smelly, stuffy air in your home? You know, when you enter your house, does your house have a certain smell? It could be due to poor indoor air quality. Do you have unvented combustion appliances in your home? Cook stoves, gas cook stoves, gas heaters. You know, they're going to emit CO, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide. So if you have any unvented combustion appliance, you could have poor indoor air quality. Are there areas of your home where things become moldy? Is there a certain closet where every time you get in there or you pull out your old pair of shoes, there's mold on them, or there's, in your bathroom? Do the walls become moldy up in the corners? If so, you could have poor indoor air quality. Is there water or moisture anywhere in your home? Do things become dusty in your home quickly? Does your home have the original windows and woodwork? If so, they probably have lead paint on them. Do you use commercial cleaners in your home? Of course you do. Back to the water and moisture anywhere in your home. Is your basement wet? Is there dirt floors anywhere? Do you have a roof leak? Do you have walls that aren't quite put together correctly, so you have moisture in the walls? All of these things can lead to poor indoor air quality. Just things to keep an eye out for. So step one in solving the problem is identifying the source of the problem. So if you suspect radon, and that's a good idea anyway, but you want to bring someone in to test for radon levels in your home. You want to install carbon monoxide detectors in the home. Carbon monoxide is a big one. Carbon monoxide is on the top of my list. Carbon monoxide and mold. They're the big ones for me. So anyway, install carbon monoxide detectors. That stuff's silent but deadly. You don't want to go to sleep, never wake up again. Have an inspection performed by a building analyst, or home inspector, but I highly suggest a certified professional. We live here in Maine. Maine's not really a licensing state. Anybody can perform a home inspection. I recommend you get someone that's certified. Do you have an attached garage? If you have an attached garage, it should be outside the home, of course, but outside the pressure boundary of the home. If you're running your car in your garage, things like that can be a big source of poor indoor air quality and carbon monoxide. Do you have chemicals in the home? Meaning, do you have bleach and cleaners and ammonia and things laying around? I think we all do. Do you have combustion appliances serviced yearly? So do you have your furnace or boiler or whatever it is you heat the home with serviced yearly? If you don't, it could definitely be the source of some poor indoor air quality. Back to moisture. Is your basement wet? If it is, you want to get rid of bulk moisture, but I think the next slide we're going to go over remedies. Are there cold surfaces or areas in your home where condensation could occur? Or better yet, is there areas where condensation does occur? Do you smoke or light a lot of candles in the home? Do you have a wood stove? Do you burn wood in the home? Do you have a gas cook stove or other unvented combustion appliance? Does your home have proper ventilation? And we'll talk a little bit more about that and what type of ventilation I'm talking about. You won't hear me say your home needs to breathe, but you need to breathe, and you live in the home, so that's how I'm gonna look at it. Have you performed a remodel or demolition work in the home recently? And are there critters in your home? Rats, raccoons that can leave excrement. That'll definitely lead to poor indoor air quality. So solving the problem. So once you identify the problem, of course, you want to solve it. After identifying the source of the indoor air pollutants, it's time to improve the air you breathe. Many times a ventilation system can dilute or remove the pollutants from a home, improving indoor air quality. And don't let the word ventilation or the words ventilation system scare you. It can be as simple as a high-quality bath fan. There's only one bath fan. There's only one brand of bath fans I would ever use, and that's Panasonic, the Whisper series. They're very quiet. I have a device called a flow hood that'll test the cubic feet per minute that the fan actually vents out of the home after it's installed. So a ventilation system can be as simple as a bath fan on a timer. so that it's automated. And after you do a blower door test and you figure out the air changes per hour in the home, and then you look at your ASHRAE 62.2 standards, and you bring the home up to proper ventilation levels, and I'm not talking about attic ventilation and crawl space ventilation. I'm talking about venting the indoor air, the air you breathe. You can actually use a high quality bath fan as a whole home ventilation system if it's implemented correctly. Put on a timer and automated. For instance, many times, you set them to run 15 minutes per hour, every hour, 24 hours a day. But with the switch I use, the air track controller, you can actually adjust the speed of the fan, and then with the flow hood, I can really tune that fan in. So if I wanted, I could pull 15 cubic feet per minute of air out of the house at all times, or I could make it pull 100 cubic feet per minute for 5 minutes an hour. So don't let ventilation systems scare you. Of course, you can use a heat recovery ventilator or energy recovery ventilator, where you have exhausts or intakes in all the bathrooms and kitchens, and then supply air in each bedroom, and the two air streams go through a heat exchanger, so the air that you're venting out actually transfers about 50 to 60% of its heat into the incoming air. So you can go that route with a ventilation system and dump some money into it. But you can get a ventilation system and have the proper ventilation in your home without going all the way. But it is possible for ventilation to actually make the problem worse or create a problem if not installed or implemented properly. Someone puts in a fan, any type of ventilation system, and doesn't make sure it's vented to the outdoors, and they vent it into a floor cavity, possibly, or they vent it into an attic. Now you've made a bad problem worse, because now you're going to have mold in the floor cavity or in the attic because you didn't vent it out properly. And just like someone comes to insulate your attic, doesn't verify fans are vented, and you can just create problems. Another thing nobody thinks about, except for us building analysts, is if you don't have any ventilation and you have an atmospherically vented boiler furnace with a barometric damper, even without one, or the easiest thing for a bath fan, the backdraft, is a atmospherically vented propane water heater. So anyway, I've seen many times what we do is we create worst case conditions. We shut all the doors in the home except for the doors between the bathroom and wherever the utility room is. Wherever the bath fan is, so the bathroom. So wherever the combustion appliance is, the furnace or the water heater, we try to make it so the bath fan sucks air from there. Only by closing other doors in the home. Things that you could do. You could close all the bedroom doors and then you run the bath fan, and then we see if the furnace will backdraft. And believe it or not, I've seen that sometimes they do. Sometimes I'll go into a home that has no insulation in it, and I'll insulate all the walls, insulate the attic, make a huge difference, really tighten up that home, put in a new bath fan, and the bath fan will cause the furnace to backdraft. But that's not a problem because I test for it and I see it. So what do? I bring combustion air into the combustion appliance zone. So you don't want to just let air come and go. Yes, maybe you need air, but you want to control that air. Control is key. So anyway, many times ventilation system can solve the problem, but if not done correctly, it can cause the problem or make the problem worse. Attached garages should be outside, meaning the door between the house and the garage should be weather stripped. The walls should be insulated. Sheetrock on both sides, should at least have one coat of mud. I know on the garage side, many times the wall may not be finished. Along the bottom, it should be sealed, whether that be with clear caulking or you put some trim or whatever it takes to seal it. You want to make sure that the garage is outside, and what I mean by that is your exterior walls create a pressure boundary. There's different pressure on the inside of the house than there is on the outside of the house. So the pressure in the garage should match the pressure outside the house, not inside the house. So there's going to be a pressure boundary in between the garage and the house, and you can just visually try to seal it. Personally, when we come into a home, we do zone pressure diagnostics and really make sure the garage is outside, or that we've done everything we can to make it outside. So kind of with that in mind, chemicals should be removed from the home. So if you have that attached garage, push it outside the pressure boundary and go ahead and put all the cleaning chemicals and paints and such in the garage and push it outside. Heating systems and filters should be cleaned regularly. You got to have that heating system serviced yearly. If it's not running correctly, it could be backdrafting or just not. For one, it's going to pay for itself because you're going to get better efficiency. That's a whole nother story. But I've tested heating systems, oil heating systems get 80% efficient. Pay $150 to have a tech come out and clean them. I test them again. I get 85, 86% efficient. So maybe you spend $150, but you're going to get it back. So you got to have the heating systems cleaned yearly. Filters, you definitely want to have them cleaned or clean them or replace them. Especially with a forced hot air furnace, you don't want to be, blowing dirty air through the house. And never mind the fact restricting the airflow and not getting, you may have an efficient heating system, but if it's blowing through a dirty filter, you're not getting all the heat. But anything with a filter, heat pumps, anything filters, clean them regularly. Every month is a good rule of thumb to take a peek at something that runs year round. Bulk moisture should be diverted and vapor barriers need to be intact. What does that mean? That means if you have water in the basement, you need to have a sump pump, and we're going to take a look at a couple pictures of sump pumps. You should have a good sump pump with a cover. If you have dirt floors in the basement, they should be covered with plastic, and we'll take a picture of what a crawl space should look like. Vapor barriers need to be intact. A lot of water from indoor, just warm, moist air, warm air that you heat inside your home can hold moisture. If there's a hole in an exterior wall in the sheetrock, you wouldn't believe how much moisture gets into that wall. And what happens is it hits the back side of the roof sheathing, hits the back side of the wall sheathing or roof sheathing if there's holes up into the attic. That's why air sealing is so important. One of the reasons. But warm, moist air is going to get through that hole in the sheetrock and hit the cold exterior surface, the back side of the exterior surface, and turn to water. Then you're going to end up with mold and mildew in the wall and not even be able to see it, but that could be contributing to your poor indoor air quality. So moisture is big. Moisture and carbon monoxide. I said carbon monoxide mold, but really it's carbon monoxide moisture, because moisture leads to a lot of these problems. Moisture is the #1 indoor air quality, indoor air contaminant, believe it or not. So bulk moisture should be diverted. Gutters, drainage systems, sump pumps if you need them, and vapor barriers intact. Unvented appliances should be removed. So if you have a little gas fireplace that's not vented, you shouldn't use it. In my opinion, you should get rid of it. Wall furnaces that are unvented should go. There's no room for them in efficient homes. They can be downright dangerous. In Canada, they're outlawed, and we're moving that way here in the States as well. So unvented appliances should be removed. What's another unvented gas appliance is a gas cook stove, and I don't like gas cook stoves in efficient homes. If you have an old drafty home, by all means keep the gas cook stove. If you really need to be cooking on that gas cook stove, then you got to make sure you have a vented range hood. I'm going to show you a quick video of why I'm not a proponent of gas stoves. I'm a proponent of them if they would vent them, kind of like a gas dryer is vented. But a gas cook stove, puts off much more carbon monoxide than a oil furnace or boiler does, yet they're not vented. So you gotta have a vented range hood. And then of course bathrooms, they need vented bath fans, not bath fans, vented bath fans. Very important, and you need to use them. A rule of thumb, let the bath fan run for 20 minutes after you get out of the shower. Problem is your bath fan's probably really loud. It probably hardly even moves any air. That's why you get a Panasonic Whisper series. They're so quiet you can't hear them. They actually move the amount of air they say they do. They're rated for continuous operation. You can use them for whole home ventilation. But really, at a minimum, you got to make sure your range hood over your stove is vented to the outdoors, not recirculating. Vented to the outdoors, and your bath fans are vented. And then dirty, dusty air should not be allowed to enter the home through every nook and cranny. So this kind of goes with the critters too. So maybe you have critters in your box sills, and they're doing whatever they're doing, leaving their nastiness in the box sills, and those box sills are leaky. And something that we'll talk about in the future is air comes in at the bottom of your home and leaves through the top of your home. So these critters are down in the box sills, and that's where all the air is leaking into your home. So if you can imagine, you might as well just be filtering it through, filtering the incoming air through, something really dirty, because that's what you're doing. So really, having a drafty home can make the air quality worse. So you shouldn't let dirty, dusty air in through every nook and cranny in your home. You should air seal and insulate and control where the air comes from. That's one problem with bathrooms and bath fans and range hoods is it's exhaust-only ventilation. So it's exhausting air and then sucking in air just through natural gaps and cracks, which are dirty and dusty. So they have balanced ventilation like an HRV or an ERV, but you're starting to spend more money. But what I prefer to do is add a couple intentional holes, like a fresh 50, which are meant, and when there's a certain pressure in the home, they're meant to let air in, and you can choose where the air comes in. You could filter it as it comes in if you want, and get out of it pretty cheap. And then of course you want to keep the critters out if you can. And then obviously passive measures are better, but sometimes mechanical systems are needed. So something that you can do once and never have to pay for again, it just takes care of itself, is good. But sometimes you may need mechanical systems to clean the air or get rid of moisture, whatever it may be. But if we can, we want to use something that doesn't cost money to maintain. Other answers to the indoor air quality problem: use safer cleaners and chemicals. EPA provides a list of what they call safer choice options. You see the link in front of you. If you Google EPA safer choice, you'll find it. And then, when use ventilation, when using chemicals in your home, when you're cleaning, open up some windows. If you're painting, open up some windows. Keep the air moving when you're using those chemicals. Although passive measures are best, sometimes an air purifier, filter, or dehumidifier may be needed. I see a lot of people run dehumidifiers or humidifiers that don't need to. We're going to take a look at humidity levels. Don't just run a dehumidifier or humidifier because you think you should. Measure the humidity levels before. And then, an air purifier with a filter, of course, is going to make the indoor air quality better. But passive measures are best. Bring your home up to ASHRAE 62.2 ventilation standards. That's going to tell you that your garage needs to be outside, that your bathroom and kitchen need ventilation, basically. And it's going to tell you how much ventilation the home needs. And you can't do that without a blower door test, so it all starts with an assessment. Abate or encapsulate hazardous materials, meaning lead and asbestos. If you have old windows with lead paint on them, if possible, put in replacement windows with new trim. If not possible, have a professional, get rid of the loose lead paint and encapsulate it with a nice thick coat of new safe paint. Asbestos, I'm not an asbestos guy. I'm not trained in asbestos. I think you can encapsulate it, whether maybe you have a pipe that you can build a chase around and make it airtight, or you can bring someone in to abate it, which would mean get rid of it. And then of course install a radon mitigation system if you have radon problems. And I think we're going to take a look at a picture of what that looks like as well. So this is going to be that little video. I'm not sure if it's going to work. Why I don't like cook stoves, gas cook stoves. I don't think it's going to work. And it's not letting me go back. Well, I don't know if you saw on that, but it said 37 parts per million. So after the oven was on for 5 minutes, if you just stood at that oven, the carbon monoxide levels were 37 per million, 37 parts per million, which I believe OSHA says in the workplace there can't be more than 30 parts per million, I believe. There should be none, really. And don't hold me to what I just said about OSHA, because there should be none. But anyway, the gas cook stoves put out a ton of carbon monoxide, especially the oven. All as I can think about is on Thanksgiving, you got the whole family over and the oven on all day, and just make sure that range hood is vented. But what you see here in front of you now is a radon system, radon mitigation system. You don't put both of these in. I suppose there may be situations where you do, but this is just showing an interior system. It goes up through the house and vents through the roof. This one's showing exterior system, which is more common in retrofits. Interior system, maybe in new construction. What it does, it depressurizes the ground under the slab in the basement. So instead of the radon just being able to come up through the house, maybe you have a bath fan fan right here running, and that's actually sucking radon up into the house. So again, ventilation can make things worse if not done properly. It could be sucking radon into the house. So anyway, what it's doing is depressurizing the ground under the house, preventing the radon to come in. This is what a sump pump should look like. I'm sure if you have one, it may look like this, but 9 times out of 10, they're in a 5-gallon bucket, and there's, just wet stuff everywhere. It should be, fairly deep, at least 2 feet deep. Submersible sump pump. The one I use, the float attaches to the PVC. That way the pump can sit in the bottom, and you can adjust that float to wherever you want. A lot of people stack that pump up on a brick or pile of bricks, and it's just not, it's not even a permanent installation in my opinion, but this has a cover. You would be surprised how much water evaporates up out of there and goes up through the home. With a cover, it cannot evaporate. If you want, you can go ahead with one of these nice sump pump bins, which is what we use. You can go ahead and tie a drainage system into it. You can do a French drain on the inside of the house, and save some money and really make a difference here with a French drain and a sump pump with a cover. But I don't know, go take a look at your sump pump, see if it looks like this. If it doesn't, you should think about possibly upgrading it. But so this is going to get rid of your radon. This is your bulk moisture problem. So this is what a crawl space or a basement with a dirt floor should look like. It's got ground cover keeping the moisture down. The walls are insulated. The ground cover should go up the walls just enough so that the insulation on the walls can come down over the ground cover. But you can take a dirty, nasty crawl space and turn it into I'd like to say laboratory conditions. You can really make it clean with just some ground cover. This is 10 mil woven basement ground cover, and the basement's encapsulated, and you really don't need to go that far. If finances don't allow, you can just use 6 mil poly, but you got to do a good job. Tape the seams, notch it real good around the penetrations. But what a difference! Go down in your basement, lay a piece of plastic, go back down there in a couple of days, and there'll be a lot of moisture under that plastic. That's moisture would have been up in your home. So ground cover is important. I'm trying to wrap this up in a half hour. That's why I'm going fast. We're at 26 minutes. So this is, I said we're going to look at relative humidity and whether or not you need the humidifier or dehumidifier. You should be between 40 and 60 degrees relative humidity. So go ahead and spend $10 at Lowe's or Home Depot or Walmart. Get yourself a humidistat and see what the humidity is, especially if you're running a humidifier or dehumidifier. 40 degrees, 40% relative humidity is going to be more in the winter, 60 in the summer. You don't want to be too dry. You don't want to be too moist. So from 40 degrees south, 40% down to 10%, you can see what happens, the respiratory infection, the mites, the mold and fungi, and viruses, bacteria. And then on the other end, from about 50 up, 60 up, the bacteria, viruses, all that stuff. So, you get the same stuff from being too dry that you do from being too moist. Really, you want to stay at this 50% relative humidity mark if you can. So this is, we were talking about vapor barriers. This is what happens. Warm, moist air goes through the wall, hits the back side of the cold sheathing, and then you end up with water, which leads to mold and mildew and all that in the wall. And this is for Maine. Inside's warm, moist air. Down south, the warm environments, it's the other way. The vapor barrier goes on the outside. So again, this has a vapor barrier, but it's on the wrong side. It's on the cold side. So, but instead of the warm, moist air hitting the roof sheathing or the wall sheathing and turning to water, bulk water, it's hitting the vapor barrier, which sure, it might save the sheathing, but you're going to end up with rotten sill plates, bottom plates. And then this one over here has the correct vapor barrier positioning, and it's done well. Any rip and tear, any penetration should be sealed. It should be done well. Got to pay attention to the details. But with this wall here, since the vapor barrier is done correctly, there's no holes in the wall. You're not going to have any issues. Now, if you go ahead and poke a hole in this wall, you're going to have a vapor barrier. But if you poke a hole in it, you're going to have moisture in the wall. This is what happens when you end up with moisture in your walls. This is what happens when you leave open bypasses. This is looking down beside a chimney. Could be down into a basement, but there can be other things, stink pipes. Any open chaseways should be sealed at the attic level and the basement level, but they should really be sealed in the attic. Air sealing is important. Because of this open chaseway, the roof deck looks like this with black mold. It's insulated. I would say there's a lot that can be done. We could talk about. I'd cut that fiberglass back and blow cellulose, but a lot of people would think it's because it needs ventilation, this roof. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's because this big open chaseway is just pouring moisture up into that attic. So this is important stuff. Backside of a side attic. So the black fiberglass needs to be an air barrier. I'm sure the sheetrock side, the finished side of that wall, is going to end up with some mold and mildew because it's a cold surface, and warm, moist air is going to hit that cold surface and won't be inside the wall like we talked about with the lack of a vapor barrier. Be surface mold, but this needs to be addressed. What I would do is put 1-inch Celotex over it, or take it out, 1-inch Celotex, then dense pack it with cellulose, or cheaper would be put Typar right over it, something to hold that fiberglass in against the sheetrock and prevent the wind washing, which is causing the black. And you also want to block off the floor cavities under the knee wall and the rafter bays above. This here is showing a garage. You can see the garage door. You want to have at least one coat of mud and tape, and then wants to be air sealed. Possibly you run a bead of caulking along the bottom. You weather strip the door, and you want to go ahead and push that garage outside. And the same thing with this crawl space over here, or side attic, in a cape. You want to push it outside the pressure boundary. So those are some of the answers. I tell you what the answer isn't. The answer isn't just letting your home be drafty and allowing it to breathe. The answer many times isn't adding attic or crawl space ventilation. Many times that's counterproductive. Bringing the spaces completely inside or pushing them completely outside the pressure boundary many times is the answer. Complete pressure boundaries. Thinking if you can't see it, it's not there. Take action. We can take care of these things. Indoor air quality, it's a big problem, but it is solvable. A lot of the things we talk about sound like big words and sound expensive, but it's not as bad as it sounds. It's opportunities for improvement. We can take care of this stuff. Thanks for listening to me, guys. I'll talk to you all soon. I think we might talk heat pumps next Sunday. So if you're interested or you're thinking about getting a heat pump, tune in next Sunday, 9 o'clock. I'll post it up, and we'll have a quick discussion about mini split heat pumps. Again, I try to keep it to a half hour. I'll see you guys next week.